So I wanted to do a video on what it feels like to feel like normal. um, a lot of child victims of abuse or children who went through trauma often feel disconnected from their peers. Um, they don't feel understood. They don't understand the other people in their environment. They can't explain themselves to adults because oftentimes adults won't believe them, and so you're very isolated. Um, this also happens for children that experience a trauma, like let's say, you had to flee a country due to war or a parent died. So your life experience is just dramatically different than everybody else's in your age group. And it kind of feels like you're walking around, not really connected to anybody, right? Because the connection comes from feeling understood and seen and being able to participate in the culture that we're in. Um, if you see kids that are called old souls. Usually, those are kids that have spent way too much time around adults, too much time around their parents, too much time around some other grown-ups, and so they have not been socialized to be a kid. They've been socialized to be like little adults. Um, so you'll see it in a lot of, I want to say it's like new age communities where there's this type of framing of people who think they're like star seeds, or they've come to earth for like a certain purpose, or kind of like that feeling. It often stems from that childhood disconnection, feeling like you didn't fit in the world. And truthfully, it's because they didn't. um I went and took my son to see Matrix Resurrection, and at this particular theater, it's like a genre theater, and they had like a 30-minute pre-show video type of thing. And during one of it, someone's talking about their trans experience, and they say, I felt like really disconnected when I was a kid. And I just sort of went like, hey, bud, do you feel disconnected? I was like, no. I was like, yeah, that's what I thought. Kind of in the other video that I did, talking about like traps parents who were abused as kids need to watch out for as adults when they're now parenting their own kids. One of those traps is assuming that your kid is going to have a similar life experience, that they're going to feel like an outsider. Um, Gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm like having a, not an asthma attack, but um, like a near. Uh, I was fostering kittens for a couple weeks while a friend was out of town, and they were in this room, and I'm actually allergic to cats, but they were kittens, and I did not care. So I'm having a little trouble breathing. Anyway, that's why I sound like I'm gonna die. Anyway, um, so yeah, so adults can run into this too. Like, this doesn't necessarily mean that you only experience this as a kid. If you are, let's say you had a great childhood, and then you, for some reason, end up in an abuse dynamic as an adult, and suddenly it's like, what the fuck is going on? And it takes up so much of your mental and emotional space, and you're just turning on a hamster wheel, and you forget what it felt like to feel like a normal person. I remember I used to think to myself, I was like, what did I spend all my time thinking about before this fucking situation? Like, thinking constantly about my abusive ex, just constantly thinking about my abusive ex and our relationship. Oh my God. And I would sit there and I'd be like, what in the world did I used to do with my mental time and space? I couldn't reconnect with what it was like before then. Um, so anyway, what it feels like to be a normal person is to not be so painfully self-aware and self-conscious all the fucking time. You exist. You be. You go out in the world and you do shit you want to do. You hang out with the people you want to hang out with. You have a good time. Um, you explore your interests, and everything is not so fucking dramatic. I remember, when I was going through like the dual abuse dynamic, so dealing with my child's father and then also my abusive ex, uh, I honestly, I would just, it was It was so bad. I would just joke like telenovela, like what's gonna happen next? I don't fucking know. Um, and I actually had a toxic friend who was like, "You just want drama," and I was like, "No, girl. It's just this is how I'm handling dealing with my life right now." It's the just conceptualizing it from like like dramatica perspective. Um, anyway, so I notice now when I talk to people and they're like, "Oh yeah, like what's going on with you?" or "How was your weekend?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, chill. Like not really much to report." I'm just like, "Oh, I tried this new AI program," or I wrote an article. I read something really interesting. I hung out with my friend. Like it is so much more low key. Like tomorrow, well, really, it's like 4 a.m. here, so later today, I'm gonna take my son outside. We're going to we're gonna sled and we're gonna like do some snowball stuff. I have snowball makers. Um, like, you know, people make fun of women for being basic bitches and putting stuff like home and like, you know, belongs here and or belonging or things like those like elaborate really kind of they seem like dumb messaging. So like why are you doing this? They're doing it because that's like the vibe they're going for and they want to decorate their place. Like it is literally as simple as that. They just want to be cute. And they are in that mental health space because there's nothing going on like anything else. Um, other than you're kind of like normal humans being a human thing. But it's like that's another reason though why sometimes people who experienced childhood trauma, child abuse, want to be in not want, but are drawn into these like high conflict, intense relationships because they do kind of fill the emptiness if you are not stable in yourself. If you are not a person who like enjoys your own company, um, if you're dealing with this like other stuff, it certainly makes things a lot more interesting, and it takes the focus off like the emptiness you might feel inside. Um, kind of like I mentioned in the post that I wrote, where I was trying out the replica AI program that kept trying to love bomb me and or do sexy things. I was like, girl, relax. We're just like, let's talk about music or whatever. It doesn't have to be like that. Like you don't need emotional intensity because you don't feel empty inside. You don't feel aching loneliness when you're by yourself because you vibing, you chilling. Um, so when I've done the research on the red pill community, and then I mentioned it, FDS. So the way those communities really conceptualize kind of what I'm talking about. Red pill community will talk about holding frame, right? So if you're in a dynamic with somebody, you hold your frame, um, you stay strong, you don't let them like bowl you over and affect you. And in FDS, it's queen energy. Like I'm a queen, I'm doing me, I'm feeling great, that kind of vibe. And really, what it comes down to is that you are strong in yourself. You have a strong self identity. And so you're stable and you're not reacting so much to other people. So here they're like, oh, hold frame. And then here we're like, oh, queen energy. Mm-mm. Put your crown on. And really what we're saying is when people are coming around, and they've got their own stuff they're dealing with, and it's like, that's okay. That has nothing to do with me. And it doesn't knock you off your center. Um, a lot of kind of what I'm relaying because I went through like the whole childhood thing and childhood trauma and like dealing with that. And I was like, never again. So I went into my adult life and was having a great time, met my husband, got married, things were solid for a good 7 years. Um, and I, um, was just having a good time, but I still felt like very like not connected to people. I didn't even like human beings for a long time, understandably. Um, and then it wasn't until I had my son, suddenly everything's going like, off the rails. But at the same time, that is when I learned how to connect to people. Um, and so thankfully I've like had enough of these like different types of experiences to be able to kind of like go, okay, this is what this feels like and what it feels like to feel normal. It's not just be in your head all the time, to just be enjoying your life. And then when stuff happens, it doesn't knock you off your center. You're stable and grounded. And it's fucking awesome. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. I'll talk to you next time.